All right, we're back in reviewing the old Dragonlance modules, and this section is actually one of my favorite sections in the campaign. We're going to head into Skullcap next. Well, greetings everyone. So we're gonna try to jump through Skullcap here. I apologize. My allergies are absolutely destroying me, and so gonna do my best here. If this is your first time joining us, then what this series is we're taking the original Dragonlance campaigns and kind of walking through it and kind of giving DM tips for anybody who does want to run these modules, and just kind of talking about them along the way. I do compare the first edition and the third edition of these books because I've actually the 3.5 edition, I've actually gotten a lot out of them and a lot of ideas. I do run these kind of translate these into 5th edition along the way, but you certainly can run these in your favorite edition. We're in the middle of Dragons of Hope, that was written by Tracy Hickman. I think that's one of the reasons for the strength of this module. This whole module is skipped and only mentioned in passing in the novels, which I think is a shame because there's a lot of cool stuff that happens here. These modules are available on Drive-Thru RPG. If you're looking for like the first, 2nd edition version, the 2nd edition collection, the classics, is going to be more bang for your buck. It basically has the 1st edition modules, but collected 4 to a book. So you're going to buy the 3 classic editions instead of 12 other books. I mentioned the 3.5 edition. This they called it Dragons of Autumn, and this also retells the first 4 modules, and so Hope is chapter 3 in this book. We are going to be winding down Dragons of Hope in this one, and as I mentioned before, Skullcap is one of my favorite parts of this campaign. What has just happened is you have saved a lot of refugees, or hopefully a lot, depending on how you did, refugees out of Pax Tharkus. You have guided them through the mountains, which was an ordeal of itself. Now you need to find a way into the Dwarven kingdom of Thorbardin, which is most difficult because you don't know where it is. But the idea is, if we get into Skullcap, there's going to be a hint there as to where we need to go. This is where I'm going to drop off, you players. We're going to be spoiling the snot out of this game moving forward. Please, if you are interested in running Dragonlance, or if you're a player in Dragonlance, send your DM my way. We've done quite a few of these videos. I plan to do a lot more of them. The previous videos were on the old channel. I'm moving them over here, but we do have a playlist here. I'm gonna be moving all the videos over here, especially as we get closer to the release of 5th edition Dragonlance book, which it doesn't look like it's going to really affect our adventures here at all, but we'll talk more about that at the time. So, there's a ton of history here, which is one of the cool things about this. So, this was the headquarters of Fistandantilus when he was waging war against the mountain dwarves of Thorbardin, and that war did not go well for him. This was the Dwarfgate Wars a few hundred years ago, and the enemy being the dwarves, were able to reach him. They were winning, and Fistandantilus set off what can only be described as a magic bomb that just wiped out all life in a certain radius. And so you're going to be walking through a lot of like wilderness of just decimated land. And so I was describing this as like gray and lifeless to my players. And you finally get to a hill atop of which is a cave that looks like a skull. Heading in, there's a ton here. And we can't go through all of it. I'm going to hit certain points, but on level 1, which is about ground level, we have 2 major encounters and several minor encounters with undead. This was where a lot of the people were when this thing went off, and so there's a lot going on here. But as you get farther down, we're going to start seeing evidence of the magical nature of this place, and there are a lot of magical puzzles and traps that are going to keep the players busy. This is a dungeon where things can go south in a hurry. This is a dungeon where you can avoid encounters or get your butt kicked by them. And so this is a really dangerous place. But I think it's a really, really cool place. And so we're going to get into things. First, we're getting into the top layer. Like I said, there's a lot of the rooms are self-explanatory. The 2 major encounters we have are 2 separate dragons right off the bat, right at the beginning, which is not what we expected at all, but still pretty cool. We have Blaze and we have Whisper. I had to look at the name real quick. We have Blaze and we have Whisper. So let's start with Blaze. Blaze is a young bronze dragon that was part of the war and got caught. And the last thing he remembers is Fistandantilus casting a spell on him. Now that was nearly 300 years ago, and Blaze has been completely suspended in magic ever since. The bubble he's in is very easy to pop, and your players can do it. But also remember, this is probably the first encounter your players have with a good dragon, which is pretty interesting. And so it's always fun to see what the players do with Blaze. My players did pop it, but they talked about it for a very long time. And so Blaze is definitely going to have some questions. I mean, ultimately, he wants to kind of get out of there and check out what's happened, with the world, especially with his people. And so that is something you can keep in your back pocket for later. But the other encounter is the dangerous one, and that's Whisper. Whisper is a shadow dragon that is guarding like this cave-like area that has like a small pool of water. In the middle of that water is his island of treasure. Ages ago, Fistandantilus told this dragon to guard the place, and Whisper's been doing that for 300 years. And Whisper especially likes to wait, he kind of hide in the shadows until people come in after that treasure, and then kills them and puts their treasure on the treasure pile. There are some changes, like a lot of times between the first, second, and then the third edition, there aren't actually that many changes except to apply the 3.5 rules. There are changes in here. It's pretty interesting. If in the first edition, if the players enter that chamber, Whisper will talk to him, but it doesn't. There doesn't seem to be anything in the book that would suggest that there's not going to be a fight. Certainly you as the DM can role play it like that. But in the module, it's just, no, this is a shadow dragon, which Whisper's an ancient shadow dragon. And so, if you as the DM are going to play straight 5th edition rules, this is going to be a bad time. And so I don't necessarily suggest that. The players can just resist temptation and not go in there, of course. And this is one of the things I mean by the players can get themselves into trouble in here. If they have Awakened Blaze will help them with the fight. That makes things a lot easier, in fact. You can have the dragons kind of go at it for a little bit. Blaze is young, and so isn't going to win that fight alone, but with the players' help, that could be a turning point. And so that is one way to do it. But the idea, the danger is if the players go in there first, it could go bad. It could go bad for them. Now, 3rd edition completely changes this. Completely. And in the 3rd edition book, there's almost no way to fight Whisper. 3rd edition goes, you don't necessarily play the characters from the novels, but you play the archetype. Okay. And so if you are playing Raceland's archetype, then let me see. They call it the Sage. If you're playing the Sage archetype, that's the archetype that has been influenced by Fistandantilus. And in 3rd edition, the dragon will think you are Fistandantilus and won't attack you. And in fact, will request that he be dismissed for his good service, because he's been there a long time. I think that's interesting. But even then, if you have Blaze with you, like the Shadow Dragon will be like, kind of give him the side eye, but still won't attack. The way I did it was a blend of the two, where if the players go in there without Blaze, then Whisper will defer to our wizard as Fistandantilus and request to be removed. But if Blaze comes with them, that puts enough doubt in Whisper's mind to realize something isn't quite right here, and probably start a battle. Now, we did start a battle in my game, and Blaze helped with it. But that to me is a way to kind of even the playing field. I also didn't make Whisper into an ancient shadow dragon. I de-age Whisper a bit. Just to make it so that it wasn't going to be a blowout, because the ancient dragons are pretty tough, and becoming in 5th edition, becoming a shadow dragon only adds abilities to a normal dragon, and so this is a pretty dangerous spot. Now, there are rewards for seeking after the treasure, right? So there's pretty good stuff on there. Heading downstairs, this whole section of the dungeon is dropped in the explosion, and so there isn't like a clean stairway down. But once you get down, there are there's a lot of stuff that is happening here. First of all, there's 2 ways down, one on each side, but these are magical invisible mazes where you have to find your way around to the stairway. So and obviously you can fall a long way as well. And so there's paths through it, which would be fine. That's not that big of a deal, except that there are in each of the two areas, there's an Iron Hydra. Now, this is an ancient Hydra that's been damaged. Only like 3 or 4 of its heads work, but it prevents the players from, just completely playing things safe. That they got to decide: do they try to get down in a hurry to get away from this thing, or face it, and or try some strategy to get rid of it quickly. At the very, very bottom, there are invisible walls that also create a small maze with invisible stalkers in the hallway. And so there's a lot of stuff like this. In another place, there is a room with a permanent reverse gravity spell on it, and so which can be very humorous, as the players try to climb down one way and then fall the other way, and so there's some good fun to be had in there as well. The one of the little puzzle traps that I thought was most fun is they're coming to the final corridor here, and there are 6 statues, 3 on each side, going through there, and these are the 6 aspects of Nuitari, who is the Black Moon, the deity for the Black Robe Mages, and each statue is presenting a field that is designed to debuff and weaken anybody who comes through. And so nothing is permanent. If you walk the other way, like, it reverses itself. But there's some humorous stuff here, like your iron weapons become wooden and that sort of thing. That's pretty humorous, but clearly designed that if intruders are getting this far, it's going to be really hard to get to kind of battle your way further, because they're taking away your thing. So like one of them is like dispel thing, and it's going to take away any magical effects and that sort of thing. If the players picked up some keys upstairs, they can actually just lock those statues, and they'll stop doing the magical field, and that kind of solves the problem. But it's very, very, very possible that your players are going to hit at least one of those, and also very possible that they end up in the Chamber of Fistandantilus with wooden weapons. So in that section, what we're actually going to do, what we're dealing with here is some aspect of the Great Wizard Fistandantilus. In the 1st edition version, he is a demi-lich version of Fistandantilus. 3rd edition calls him a remnant of Fistandantilus. I ended up with remnant because kind of in my game that Fistandantilus had kind of escaped from that spot. It is his real person. But there is something of him behind. Now, he won't attack you unless you attack him. And if you just stand there and wait, he'll disappear. Again, this is another spot where the players can get themselves into a heap of trouble, and make this dungeon a lot harder by just rushing into battle without chatting first. So this could be yet another boss fight. Like your players can line up boss fights in this dungeon, or they can miss most of them. But there behind that there's plenty of treasure. And also the main thing that we came for was the Helm of Graylin. Now, Graylin was a prince in Thorbarden who was tricked into leading the charge into Skullcap, and was met a bad end in this spot. But his helmet have these crystals in them that stored his soul upon death. And so if any player puts it on, Graylin will kind of just take over, which is legitimately a ton of fun. Graylin will tell them the way to Thorbarden. In the books, Graylin is very aware of what happened and just kind of trusts the players with this information. In the novel, it plays out in an interesting way. So I mentioned before, this whole module was skipped by the original Chronicles novels. Well, Weiss and Hickman did write the Lost Chronicles, and the first book in it was Dragons of Dwarven Depths, and contains this section. I pulled from that novel quite a bit here. So in that, the heroes really don't even go down into Skullcap that much. I think mostly to save time, and also so that they didn't have to try to retcon a ton of stuff. You know, it's like in the novel, like Blaze is actually dead. And so they don't have to retcon when they finally meet a legitimate good dragon later in the original Chronicles to explain what in the world they are, which they did have to do. But they put on the helm right away, and Graylin does not have the foggiest clue that he's dead, and kind of just takes over personality wise. So I put the helmet way far. I put the helmet on the first level, and my Kinder naturally put it on because this is what Kinders do. And Graylin takes over, and I sent. We're playing online, and I sent that player a message saying, "You are now a Dwarven prince, and you think the people with you are soldiers under your command. Your mission here is to hunt down Fistandantilus and kill him." And so she, in good humor and good fun, took over the party, and the other party members were slowly figuring out, it's like, man, our Kinder has changed a lot. And she demanded, no, we are going after that punk Fistandantilus. That's my mission here. And so they ended up going down deep into the dungeons, even though they technically didn't have to. It was still a lot of fun. So when they beat up the remnant of Fistandantilus, Graylin was very pleased that his mission succeeded, and he announced, "We will now go back to Thorbarden." And the players were like, "Great, that's good." And so that worked out really well, and that actually played out very, very nicely. There's one more thing. There is one more thing that I want to mention out of the first edition version that is not in the 3.5 edition version. There are, in the previous section, when you were going through the mountain, there were several events that you could roll for and they might occur. One of them is that Verminard comes through on his dragon and attacks everyone. The Skullcap section of this book mentions if that event happens here, then Blaze will go up and attack. I am honestly not sure how exactly that's going to work when you're inside, but and it doesn't explain. It really doesn't explain. I very naturally thought that once we hit Skullcap, we were not rolling for mountain encounters anymore. But the book very clearly talks about it like it's still a possibility. And so that definitely, like, that can, we did not do this, but if you do want to roll for it, that could be really interesting. That you hear the dragon flying outside, and it's like, oh no, I wonder if they know we're here. And Blaze is like, I'll take care of it. Worry not, humans. And goes after it. I think that would be a lot of fun. But I honestly thought it was a little strange that part was in here. So that is getting most way through Skullcap. Now, we didn't touch on a ton of rooms that are pretty straight, self-explanatory. I think they're like, actually, some of the stuff is really, really neat. They have at the entrance, which is not the entrance anymore because the mountain fell down, but at the entrance there are like some arrow slits, pointing into the entry, and like you have some undead wights and stuff that are lined up there ready to. So don't go through that hallway. That's another way that your players can get themselves in trouble real fast. But if you come around the back, then you can encounter them. There's a lot of just kind of neat, quirky encounter stuff, like a really nice jacket that it remains intact, but if you grab it, then the ghost of the owner will pop up and attack because you're stealing his jacket. Fun stuff. This is a fun dungeon. Every time I run a Tracy Hickman dungeon, I'm more impressed with his skill and creativity. His dungeons feel very historic and lived in, and I love that. I absolutely love that. Like all the detail from Zaxaroth, for example. Fantastic work. So this one's a lot of fun. We're going to be jumping to the fourth. This ends Dragons of Hope. There's no more hope. None. We're going to be jumping next into Thorbarden, and there's a ton here too that I think is pretty good, including our final confrontation with Verminard. If you're a fan of the novels, you are sitting here wondering, why is he still alive? He was supposed to die in Pax Tharkas. Well, he only died in Pax Tharkas because, we didn't, they didn't novelize modules 3 and 4. And so, but we as players are going to face off with him for the final time coming up next. And so, if you are not subscribed, please do subscribe. We're going to be continuing with this series as we learn more about Dragonlance for the 5th edition. Going to be doing some reviews on that here as well. I do want to tell you, I have a new adventure out that I wrote and published, that's 5th edition compatible, that is up. I will as soon as I have the link, I say it's up. It has been submitted. As soon as it's up, I'll put the links and everything. But if you want to follow along with the creation of my own campaign, then I've started another channel called The Heartstone of Karana, and I'll try to put the link up here if I'm able to. That's chronicling my process in creating a very large and in-depth campaign that I'm really pumped about. So really appreciate y'all hanging out, and we'll catch you next time. Appreciate it.